All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second session of this webinar series hosted by Crankwheel. I'm Joey Sigurdsson. I'm the founder and CEO of Crankwheel, and my co-founder Gilse is also on the call. Yeah, so I see folks are starting to say hi in the chat. I'll say hi here as well. Okay, so this session is about best practices when you're giving a demo over a web conference. Yes, Ash, I see you only just got let in. That was me. I was about a minute or two late to start. I'm sorry about that. But hopefully then everyone is in now and seeing. So you didn't miss anything. I only just started. Don't worry about that. Yeah, so this session, it's about how to give product demos remotely over a web conference or a screen share, some best practices, and I think we'll talk about that for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then there will be time for Q&A at the end. All right. So first of all, this series, is overall about transitioning from a field sales role to an inside sales or telesales role, sort of because of the pandemic that's going on. A lot of people are working from home, and so how do you sell from home? Well, if you're selling a product or there's a platform that you need to sort of sell your customers or prospects on, it can be really good to give a demonstration of that platform. And normally you might give it in person. So let's talk about some best practices for giving it remotely. So I won't talk about tools this time. That was in the last webinar. In case you missed the last webinar, if you don't have the recording already, let me know. I can send it to you. Not a problem at all. I will send you also the recording for today's webinar after it's finished. All right, so let's dive in. So number one thing the first thing that I'd like to talk about is when you're giving a product demo over a screen share or over a web conference, you should, or at least I think it's a good idea to set expectations. Tell them how long you will take. Maybe you booked a meeting in case they probably know you're booking half an hour or you're booking an hour. If it's a phone call, tell them how long it will take, see if they have time. Do they have time for a 5-minute demo, 20 minutes, half an hour? How deep do they want to go? Set the expectation around time. And also, I like to set the expectation around the result of the demo for both you and them. So I would typically say something like, all right, Mr. Johnson, at the end of these 30 minutes of taking a look at a demonstration of our product and discussing how it could be a fit for you, what your problem is, how you'd like to solve it, and how Crankwheel could be a fit, or whatever product you're pitching. My goal is that at the end of this discussion today, you'll be able to tell me if we should take some next steps. And then, during the call, you'll figure out what the next steps might be. If it's setting up another meeting with more stakeholders, if it's, actually purchasing, if it's, another demo, or if they are not sure there's going to be a next step, then maybe that's just a quick no for you. And, when you're selling, a quick no can be gold because it lets you move on. All right. So that's what I mean about setting expectations, and you can give them an overview of the timeline. Like we'll do 5 minutes just for a very brief, very brief overview of our product, and then we'll spend the next 15 minutes diving into whatever area is of most interest to you, and then we'll take the last 10 minutes to discuss a little bit more about the problem you have and how what you've seen can actually help you solve that. So that kind of thing. Frame the conversation to ask for business at the end of the call, and I'll touch upon that again. Also, do plan how you're going to spend your time. So we sort of talked about that. Give them an idea of how you plan to spend the time. If it's a 30-minute demo, which is what we typically do at Crankwheel. Some companies with more complex platforms where you need to dive in more, Might do a 1 hour or 45-minute demo, but we typically book half an hour. Sometimes you only have 5 or 15 minutes to do the demo, and you can plan for that. So plan ahead of time how you intend to spend that half hour, let's say. Maybe it's, a couple of minutes of establishing rapport, a couple of minutes of setting the expectations like we talked about just now. And then maybe you take 12 minutes, to actually give the demo, where maybe the first half of that is your brief overview. The second half of that is digging into topics that they are most interested in. And that maybe leaves you with 10 minutes to wrap up, to really say, okay, now that you've seen this, can you tell me how does it, how do you think that fits with the problem that you're trying to solve, or the pain point that you have? Is there anything else you'd like to dig into to help me understand how our product can be a better fit for you? But do plan, how you're going to spend that time ahead of the demo. Very importantly, don't try to show every aspect of your product. Your prospect, if you try to show them every feature in every demo, they will be bored to tears and they will forget the main points. You'll probably start, if you try to show them everything, you'll probably start by showing them, the most important things about your product, the ones that are most differentiating. And then if you're trying to get into all the details about all the other features of your product, you're probably going to end up, digging into so much detail that your prospect no longer remembers what was the main interesting thing about your product, the real thing that makes it different and that could help it solve their particular pain point. So try to stay at a fairly high level, especially when you're giving the overview. When you're giving the overview, it's fine to skim over all the little details. You can just say, we have reporting capabilities. You can just say, your IT team is going to be happy with the ways they can integrate the product. You don't really have to talk about any of those. Talk about what makes your product different. And from what you know about the problem or pain that they would like to solve, from qualification or from earlier on in that phone call before you started the screen share, talk about how this product is uniquely situated to help them. So, don't try to go into everything, but, and also, don't give them this, don't give every prospect the same presentation. So if they've already told you, they are part of the IT team, then, you probably want to tell them about features of your product that are going to appeal to the IT team, like manageability and auditing and whatever it is. If they've already told you that they've tried the product and they tried this and this feature and they'd like to know more about whatever, then don't spend time on those. Just focus on whatever it is that they are most interested in. So, you can have a ready-made, sort of almost canned demo of your product, and you could make a video of that. But why wouldn't you then use that video every single time, right? You are selling to somebody, you're selling to a human. Understand, what it is that they're interested in, and tailor the demo as you go along for that person. Another thing that's sort of related to this is don't just speak. Listen to them. Give them, so stop. Take a pause, stop. Give them an opportunity to, give you feedback on what they've seen so far. Even not asking a question can be really effective. You can just stop talking for, a few seconds, and they may jump in with something, even though you didn't, ask them specifically a question. So that's another little piece of advice there. Okay, we've covered this. I think hone in on whatever it is that they're interested in or worried about regarding your product, regarding how it might be or not be a fit to solve their case. And at the end of the demo, as I touched on before, set that expectation up front that you're essentially going to be asking for their business, or at least asking them to, have a next step in mind at the end of the demo, at the end of the discussion. So always, go in for that. It doesn't have to be going in for the kill, but it depends on your industry. If you're targeting small business owners, you've got the small business owner on the call. There's probably nobody else they need to ask. So if they like it, they might just say, yes, let's do it, I'll buy. So, I like to close with something like, now that you've seen the demo and we've had the discussion about your problem and how, our product can be a fit for that, is there anything preventing you from deciding whether or not to purchase? And you might find out at that point that they need to talk to some other stakeholders. You might need to organize another demo and so forth. So always ask. A lot of demos, I've seen, I watched a lot of recorded demos, sales training, helped some of our salespeople with demos, and too many demos fizzle out. It's just like, okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that, and goodbye. and then you're stuck having to try to chase after them later to try to get, an understanding of what are the next steps. What do we do from here? Are they actually interested or not? So always go for that. So that's actually the last slide, but I wanted to show you a couple of techniques that you can use. These are with Crankwheel, so they're a little bit specific, or I'll use Crankwheel to illustrate them at least. Hang on. Okay, so a couple of things when you're doing a product demo. So let's say your demo is a web application. So you're demonstrating some kind of a web app. So I'll just use Google Calendar here as an illustrative sort of thing. So let's say this is the web app that I want to demonstrate. If it is a web-based application, if you're using Crankwheel, it can be really good to screen share just the browser tab. So that's how you screen share a browser tab, and I'll just explain why that's better than screen sharing the full screen. You see, if everything is in the website that you're demonstrating, then by sharing just the browser tab, it'll be a much cleaner experience for your customer. They won't have to, they won't see any notifications on your screen. They won't see other programs that might be intruding on your screen, that kind of thing. Another thing is, if you have to do a little bit of setup for your demo, let's say, actually, let's just take a silly example. Let's just say that, this news site is another part of your demo, and then let's say that Yahoo is another part of your demo. So realistically, these would be, you would open in different browser tabs. You would open like different parts of your application that you're demonstrating. And then a nice thing you can do in Google Chrome is you can right-click on that tab. And sorry, where is this? Here it is. Actually, you need to right-click on the empty area here, and you can say bookmark all tabs. And you could create like a folder of bookmarks that you could call something like standard tabs for demo. Okay. And that'll mean you have, a folder here somewhere. Actually, I can't find it right now, but never mind that. So you'll have a folder of bookmarks where you can actually right-click on the folder. Example demo materials, let's say this is from earlier, and you can say open all in new window. And that'll give you a beautiful new window of Chrome browser tabs with all those parts of your demo open already. And then if you are screen sharing, you can sort of start with the first tab in that screen share. Viewer, just so that there's somebody connected here. Okay. And then another nice thing about sharing just the browser tab is that you can work in other seeing. You see, this doesn't change while I work in this browser tab or this browser tab. It only changes, what the viewer sees only changes after I switch to that tab. So you can be going between these tabs, preparing the next tab in your demo. You know, if it's a complex enough platform, that can be really useful. That bookmarking trick, opening all of them in a browser window, all of them as different tabs in a browser window, and then switching between sharing different tabs from that window. That can be a really nice setup for demos. And a lot of times, an objection we sometimes hear to from potential customers regarding giving screen shares right there on that first phone call. Sorry, just a quick answer here, John. Question from you. Yes, this is being recorded, and I'll send it to all participants. So thanks for that question. Yeah, so an objection we commonly hear from prospective customers is that they need time to prepare their demos because they have different customer profiles. And to that I say that this may be true for some businesses, but for a lot of businesses, I think it just comes down to preparation. So why not have, 20 different or 5 different example demo materials, different folders for the different type of demo, and then you can be in a call and you can just, open your, right click here and open all in new window on the correct set of demo materials for that particular customer, and you're golden. You can do a demo, a product demo, and you can make it look as if you prepared for a couple of hours, even though you just had a phone call. You're talking to, let's say, some high-level decision maker or the business owner. You've spoken to them for 5 minutes. They're really interested. So you say, hey, do you have 15 to 20 minutes for me to give you an actual demo of the product? And maybe we can just, both save time. I won't need to call you again if you're not interested. And if you are interested, then you can start getting value right away. So, prepare your demos, but prepare them as standard sets of demo materials. That's really my advice. If the platform that you are selling is a standalone application, let's say you're selling Zoom.us. So you're selling a program that they download. You can always do that with Crankwheel or many other web conferencing tools. You can share just that window. So right now I'm sharing just my Zoom window into a screen share with a viewer here. And again, that is a cleaner experience than sharing your full screen. In case you have notifications, in case you have, customer information in a different window on the screen. There's just so many things that can go wrong when you're sharing the full screen. So if you can avoid it, you should more typically share a browser tab or program window. However, if you are sharing full screen, then it can be really nice to have 2 monitors. So if you have a separate monitor, do the demo by sharing full screen on your secondary monitor. So I happen to have 2 monitors for this computer right here. So I might, choose to share this one, and I could have the Crankwheel tab elsewhere. So, so the customer doesn't see anything except what I have on this screen, and my notifications are showing up on the other screen. So there's a lot less chance for any weird stuff to show up if I have a dedicated monitor for demos. So that's another recommendation that I have. So I think that is about it for what I wanted to cover with you in terms of, best practices, how to be prepared, how to frame the conversation, all of those nice things. And I'd like to open it up for questions at this point. So if you have a question, feel free to put it into the chat window, and I can, if there's something I can demonstrate further, I'm happy to do that. Or if there's something just to talk about, that's fine as well. Hey, Ash, you have a question? Okay, so the question is for the recording, what's the best way to handle a customer if they want to speak, but they do not need a demo? Um, well, I mean, if you have someone on the phone already, obviously you should try to push as far as you can in that phone call, or at least that's our opinion. Because well, you all know how hard it is to get someone on the phone again. If you have them on the phone, go as far as you can. That's always my recommendation. If they don't need a demo, you know, if they're not the right decision maker, that could be one case. In that case, you know, try to spend the rest of the phone call seeing if they will connect you or help organize a meeting with the right decision makers. That would be one answer to that question. You know, depends on what tool you're using. Like if they say they just want to speak but they don't need a demo, then you know, go for a phone call for sure. Um, if they say they want to speak, they don't need a demo, but there are other stakeholders, you should probably choose one of the tools that is like more like a video call, a richer experience. Okay. So Ash, I'll continue with Ash's question, which has a follow-on. How do you deal with someone who says that now is not the right time? Do you schedule a new time or try to keep them on the phone? Well, if I haven't already said that I could show them very quickly, just 5 minutes demo, just so they get a basic idea and they can better understand whether they would like to talk to me again about it or not. If I haven't already said that, I would probably try to push a little bit and say, you know, even if you have only 5 minutes, I can show this to you very, very quickly. You don't need to be in front of your computer. Even if you're mobile, I can show this. Um, and you know, you can probably save time. If you end up not interested after that, then we're good. We don't need to speak again. If you do end up interested, then you know that the appointment that we'll book together is going to be a useful one. So I would maybe try to push a little bit for that. But if I've already like offered a 5 minute demo and they're basically saying no, then yes, I would just ask them if we can reschedule. You know, see how that goes. And there was another question here from Jesper that I'd like to answer now. So the question for the recording is, you said don't show all the features of the platform. As an example, when pitching Crankwheel, what do you show or focus on? Okay, that's a great question, Jesper. Thank you. So we would typically, when we're doing a demo of Crankwheel, we would typically just focus on the sort of wow factor of our standard start for a demo, and this does depend on the prospect, but very common is we'll start by sharing, you know, maybe the full screen. We will ask them if we can send a text message, because getting someone very easily connected on the phone is really a big wow factor for a lot of people who have never seen that, who've never seen Crankwheel. So I won't show my phone, but I'll connect with my phone. And now I'm showing them the full screen. Sorry, connecting here. Once they're connected, I might ask them to zoom in. Oh, sorry, I'm showing the other screen. So once they're connected, I might ask them to zoom in. Sorry about that. I need to switch screens so I can illustrate what I mean. Okay. So once I'm connected to them, I might ask them to zoom in on the preview pane. And I would say something, you see, I just did that. And I would say something like, do you see what happens on the preview pane when you zoom in? It tells me what you're looking at in your screen share. And then I might ask them to exit their browser, like pretend they lost interest and are going to Facebook. And I point out that, hey, now it's telling me, the presenter, that the viewer's window is hidden. At which point I can say something like, hey, but if you look right here, try to get them back into the screen share, which I did just now. So that's only like 3 minutes, and that's sort of how we would tend to start almost all demos, unless we know that this particular prospect is more interested in inbound than outbound. Then we would start by showing our instant demos feature before we do that. And really, depending on the reaction to just this like 2-3 minute part of the demo, I would typically tailor it like, do they have more people on mobile, or what does the prospect think? Will they have more people on their mobile when they reach them, or in front of their computer when they reach them? And then I might show them different ways of connecting. Are they doing more inbound or outbound interest? And then I might show them, instant demos or not. And then just see if they're interested in, reporting, or what do they want to know more about, or do they just want to talk about their problem a little bit, or how their sales team operates? Give me a little more insight into that so that I can tailor the demo based on that. Okay, so there's one other question here from Shiloh. For the recording, is it just as effective to do a full screen share and pause the window to shift to a new tab window for the customer to view, rather than using the browser tab? Yeah, pause is intended for exactly that. So if you are making some adjustments that you don't want your customer to see, that's what you use pause for. So yeah, so I don't think I need to illustrate that, but there's a pause button, and then you can resume. An interesting example that I saw just yesterday or the day before is some of our customers have a way in their CRM system where they can look up one of their prospects, and they can click a button in the CRM system that sort of generates a type of a demo site for that customer. I'm not sure exactly for what, but it's like a custom-made presentation or a demo site or something like that. And you don't really want your customer seeing that part when you open up their profile in the CRM, and you have all this information maybe about them, and then you click that button. You probably either want to use the browser tab approach that I showed you, or you want to pause your screen before you bring up their profile until their presentation or demo or whatever it is up on screen. So you can use pause with the full screen for that very effectively. But it doesn't help you with things like notifications. So there are pros and cons. There are pros and cons for sure. But for a lot of agents, when they are sales agents, when they're starting out, it can be a little bit simpler to just be able to stay in a full screen mode for the whole demo and just remember to pause when appropriate. So that can be a great way to start. I would say for anything that's a web-based product, screen sharing just the browser tab is going to give you more control, and it's going to be a cleaner demo for the prospect. All right, so we have time for one more question if anybody has one. I don't see typing going on, so I'm just going to say thank you all very much for attending. The recording will be ready in maybe half an hour, and I will send it out to everyone who was registered. So thank you very much, and I hope to see most of you again next Monday at the same time, at which point we will go through some best practices giving remote presentations, and we'll talk about interactive types of presentations as well. So that's not a product demo, but it's presentations where you get a little interactivity in there, which really helps you keep engagement going. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.